I believe I just did the coolest thing possible with my tractor. Welcome back to what has been like probably the 20th day of doing our utilities. Because of the size of wire we are pulling, we actually had to upgrade. We had originally a 2-inch piece of conduit on here, rigid because it's outside. Anything outside needs to be in rigid conduit above ground. But we had to move that because we needed a 2.5-inch. That was the smallest that our wire was going to allow us to. And if you're wondering how to figure that out, there are some really cool apps that I will link down below from Southwire. They're really amazing. They really tell you exactly what you needed to know. And we had to up the rigid conduit. So I am keeping this for the shop because that will stay the same draw and length, and that's good. And then this is for our grounding as well, that is in rigid conduit. So we're buttoned up. We're actually waiting an inspector to give us the go-ahead so that we can get, I don't know if you'd call it temporary power. Typically it's temporary power that you're given at a construction site because it's just like a random meter that's set up and you've just got, you know, a few extension cords you can plug into it. But this is permanent power because this is where my main meter box is going to be. So I'm gonna call it permanent power that we're setting up. You cannot hear it, but there is a hum that's coming off this transformer right now. This guy is live. So they'll just string through this transformer through our conduit and up into here. And I opened that up to a worse surprise yesterday. Since the guys came out and set that transformer, they cut the conduit short because it was tall. I gave them more than they probably needed. But in doing so, it took off the tape that was on the end of those. You can see the tape on that one still. That was to protect it from dirt getting in, but it also protected it from something I didn't realize could get in, and that is mice. There's a dead mouse in there, and it couldn't get out. It was too steep. I didn't find it until way too late, but I can smell it. Oh, it smells so bad. I feel like I'm in the meth house again. Oh, it smells so bad. And what's worse is that smell gets like in your nose. It gets in your, like, my beard, I guess. I don't know. I smelled it all day yesterday, even away from the house. You don't care. Let's get on with what we're doing. So that is a leftover piece of 2.5-inch rigid conduit that I had. And we are currently trying to sleeve those underneath because that's where our utilities are going to come through. We've already been over this. I have to sleeve my power underneath here, and I have to sleeve my water underneath here, and my gas is actually going to come through the wall. I didn't want to dig that by hand, so I got this idea. Maybe if I take that rigid piece of conduit, which is very stout, I initially thought, what if I start pounding that through? But then I realized I don't have a sledgehammer out here yet. That thing weighs a ton, so holding that and pounding that at the same time is going to be a nightmare. But I did pound a piece of rebar through just to see how stiff it was going to be, like if there was big rocks under the way or not. And it went through pretty easy. So I thought maybe, just maybe, I'll use buckets. Best investment of my life. So class, I sit up, perched in my little nest up there in buckets. I'm the only one who's allowed to nest there, not a bird. Clearly pushed it through and it shoved right through. So, one is done. We've got to do 2 now. Look at that sleeve, man, that's amazing. So I don't collapse that sleeve, I'm gonna shove this guy through there. The conduit that's actually gonna be in that hole. Yeah. We should be good. Tell me that was not the slickest thing ever. Oh baby, look at this right here. Totally just worked. We have just gotten our electrical service clearance. So they're gonna come out this week and connect all this up, put my meter in, and we will have power in this panel. He did require that I put in a panel that's working out here for my contractors, me, but I want one anyway, and I knew that a long time ago that was going to be the case. So I bought a good old-fashioned RV style panel, and he's like, you need this hooked up by the end of the day, send me pictures, and I'll sign it off. So I was just running all that pipe down that trench. Maybe we'll get to that a little later. Project at hand is getting this guy all the way strung up. One thing that's super cool about these panels, when you buy them like this, they're all ready to go. They're already wired up, and all I have to do is really just run my new conduit in, and then we'll mount this bad boy on our existing strut. Remember how I left a little bit of space over there? Yeah, I did that for a reason, because I want this to just be perfect. Yesterday we were able to get this box mounted before we had to call it a day. If you're familiar with RV boxes, they have a 50 amp, a 30 amp, and a 20 amp breaker. This qualifies as temporary power, but because of the box I bought, it's permanent, so we're gonna leave it as permanent power here. Got a little bit of pipe to bend here, just to make a couple points. So when you're using a pipe bender, you gotta make sure you've got the right size die. This die is built for 1/2 inch rigid pipe or 3/4 inch EMT. This is EMT, so the 3/4 inch works perfect. Now here's the hard part, is keeping this part straight from when I'm bending it. I think we did it. There we go. Perfect U shape, which is exactly what I wanted. This is called a knockout, and we're gonna get rid of it so we can get into this box. And there we go. Sometimes they come super easy, sometimes they don't. My money don't jiggle, because it's not money. So then, I'm gonna take one end off. These are a compression fitting that fits over 3/4 EMT. And you have to be really careful of that. When it comes to getting the right kind of conduit and pipe and everything like that, you need to know what's code, and you also need to know what you're getting for fittings, because there's other fittings that look just like this that are not for this style of pipe. So you gotta make sure it's getting the right diameter. This is EMT, that's an EMT fitting. Should be labeled. Box stores are pretty terrible about labeling them, so just make sure you're reading the packages before you buy. Pro tip, amateur tip. I don't know if you're supposed to do these down or up, but I always do them down, so it feels like it kind of squashes that a little bit more. And I'm just gonna leave that fairly loose for right now. I didn't know this, amateur tip, that some of these doors you can actually take off, because the door was really in my way swinging back and forth, but this door you can pop off. There's 3 screws. So look for that if you're working in this for a while and want the door out of your way. That was really convenient. Now that our conduit is set in both boxes, I'm gonna tighten these guys up real good. So here's the trick. Use a flathead screwdriver, put it in that little crevice, and pound away. Same thing here. This one's a little bit harder to get into. Here we go. Now we're ready to run some wire. And the wire we're running is 6 wire because that's enough to handle 50 amps. Come on. Oh, come on. Save ourselves a little bit of trouble. Throw a little bit of electrical lube on this bad boy, and that'll help. Cool part is this stuff dries up. The electrical lube does, so it'll be goopy and nasty for a minute, but then it goes away. There we go. Oh, come on. Direction. And that's 8 pull wire. It is not supposed to be that hard, but I don't know if stuff's warm or hot or what, grippy, but get enough lube, it works, it goes. Always give yourself plenty of slack. Cutting off a little bit stinks, but not having enough is even worse. So RV panel done, ready. This panel's all the way buttoned up. I'm sure it wasn't very clear, but in order to put in an RV panel, it's considered a sub panel, so you need to have a circuit breaker here for as much amperage as here. This is a 50 amp panel, so I need a 50 amp breaker here, which is this guy, 50 amps. There'll be more to come in here later on, but for right now, that's all we need, so we got it buttoned up. I cannot believe we are at this spot right now. We are actually finishing the electrical conduit. Yeah! Oh man, I cannot believe we are there. Well, now we are ready for water. So I've got everything hanging from buckets right now. It just is gonna make this spool off. Once, I have to just spool it off and feed it underneath there in that smaller conduit. And once that's done, we're okay. I'll just lay it down and roll it out and it'll go pretty well. But this first part, I didn't want to try and feed slack without it being suspended like that on a reel. So this is gonna work good, I hope. I don't know. And these already come with kind of a little plug in it, so I'm just gonna make sure that guy's in solid. Start feeding it in, and then we will spool it off. You want as much slack as you can give yourself, because you are not allowed to have a junction underneath your cement slab as well. You can't have a union there. It's got to be all continuous till it comes up out of that cement slab. So give yourself plenty of slack so you can move it around to wherever we're going to finish it over there. Did I mention it's 95 degrees outside today? Water's out. I definitely want more though. So I'm gonna go feed at least triple that, because there's going to be a wall right here. I want to be able to bring that water on the ground and up through the wall a little bit, and then we can branch off from there. But it's got to be continuous under your slab. Do a couple more. Holy cannoli. That is brutal work. I was completely unwinding that by hand, and I didn't realize it when I threaded it in, but I had been threading through the middle of the reel instead of the outside of the reel. So there was kind of a working against me feeling going on, but maybe it kind of helped me too, because I would put tension on it and it would help throw the reel forward a little bit more. So I don't know if that was good or bad or what, but it is what it is. This is the main part of our utilities in place. We've got some more work to do, and I'll keep you updated on that. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. 15%, come on. I hate this stupid camera. You guys, we have hit a critical, not critical. Dang you, double wall, not melting. We are gonna bury gas and water, or we're gonna bury